As the offseason has slowed down across Major League Baseball over the holiday week, it has for the Phillies as well. And there hasn't been a ton of moves. There hasn't been much over the last few days. And we're kind of in a bit of a dead zone here. Not really a ton going on, but there have been some little nuggets over the past few days from Dave Dombrowski, from some other people across the league that I do think is worth diving into today on the newest episode of Phillies Digest. Welcome back once again. If I have not seen you guys since, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you watching our videos. And I want to thank you guys once again for continuing to watch Phillies Digest here. Me, Sean Bernard, and the whole team have been working really hard this past 2024 season, and we are ready for the new year to start. But with that, I think the kind of question across Phillies, fans and the city right now is, what's next for the Phillies? Is there a big move coming? Is there anything major left? And I'm going to be honest, I don't think so. I don't think something crazy is going to happen this offseason. Granted, nothing is ever off the table, but we did get this report today from Todd Zolecki, and he says, after a busy 2+ weeks before the holidays, it would be surprising to see the Phillies make further additions before camp opens. Well, significant additions anyway. And I think that is kind of pretty telling right now, and I don't really think that's a surprise to anyone. But that is kind of what I'm here to talk about today, is that sort of what the status of the Phillies is right now, where they sit on the payroll, and what could possibly be next if there was another move. So right now, I'm going to dive into some numbers, and I will say these can get a little confusing sometimes. They honestly get a little confusing to me sometimes. It is not easy trying to figure out all these taxes and payroll numbers, but I'm going to do my best here for you guys. So right now, this is from On Patterson's Tim Kelly. Our total luxury tax threshold projection right now is around $304 million. Once again, this is a projection. This is not the set number. But he writes, with the additions of Luzardo and Ross, the Phillies' 40-man roster is above the third surcharge, a.k.a. the Steve Cohen tax. When you consider that the Phillies have to account for players who aren't currently on the 40-man roster or even in the organization at all, that will inevitably be needed to get through a 162-game season. Their internal number is likely even higher. So basically in baseball, a lot of people like to say, and the saying is that the salary cap is fake in baseball. And really it is. There's no cap in baseball. But what we do have are these first, second, and third surcharges. So if you go over this first surcharge, which is $261 million, you get taxed 52% tax on all overages, meaning that whatever money, if you're $1 million over, you get taxed 52% of that $1 million. If you're $100 million over, or say if you're $279 million, that's your payroll, you get 52% taxed on the overages from that 261. For the second surcharge, it's a 95% tax on all overages. That is over $281 million. And the third surcharge, that is what you go over to get sort of into that fourth tax threshold. That is 110% tax on all overages. That is AKA the Steve Cohen tax. So basically, if you go over $10 million over the $301 million surcharge, you're basically getting taxed an additional $11.1 million. So you are getting taxed 110% for every dollar that you spend over that third surcharge. So right now, based on projections, the Phillies are over that number. Obviously, the signings this offseason so far, the three big ones of Jordan Romano, Joe Ross, and Max Kepler. Those are I would say, three notable sort of free agent signings this offseason. But Obviously, some numbers come out if some guys get traded. If a guy like Taijuan Walker were to get traded, it would be hard for the Phillies to find a way to not pay some of that next season. I'll say this right now. If Taijuan Walker did find a way out, I guarantee you the Phillies will still be paying somewhat of that contract next season just because of how high it is for the player. But what I'm really getting at here is that this number right now screams to me that the Phillies are going to float around it. They're not going to skyrocket over it. They're not going to go sign another $30 million a year player, but they are willing right now, it seems, to go over it. Because right now, projected, they are over this third tax, meaning that they will get taxed 110% of every dollar that they go over next season. And granted, once again, trades could happen. Guys could get released. Contracts can still come off the books. But as of right now, they are over this third tax. And it really kind of puts it into perspective based on sort of how you see it. So right now, the tax payroll is around $267 million. That is that highlighted box right on the left side of your screen. That is projected for 2025. So you see that 267 number, and you remember about, oh, well, now we're only over this first surcharge, you're good. But then you go back and you realize that over all the way on the right, you have about $4 million in pre-arbitration, and you have about $37 million that you'll hand out in arbitration. That is guys like Ranger, guys like Bohm, Stott, all those guys that we talked about a month or so back that were arbitration eligible. These are the guys that will be offered a contract eventually, and their contracts that they end up getting will get added into that payroll. So that is kind of where the Phillies stand. And I do kind of want to hear your thoughts right now, and I know we've talked about this, but we've been talking about a lot of things repetitively because it's been a bit of a drag the last few days. This is kind of where we stand. Right now, the bullpen: Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Romano, Orion Kerkering, Tanner Banks, Jose Ruiz, Joe Ross. Those are your top 7 guys in your bullpen. There is a chance. I think that the Phillies could probably get one more. I think there's a flyer opportunity here. I don't have a specific name for you. Right now, at least, there's still guys out there. If you guys did want me to sort of dive into a potential flyer bullpen guy video, let us know. But those are your 7 bullpen guys right now. Obviously, there is a possibility that some guys from the minors could come up this coming season. But right now, those are sort of the guys that are on your roster as far as the bullpen. As far as the rotation, I think we know this: Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, the newest addition, Jesus Luzardo, and Taijuan Walker to round it out. Obviously, those top 5 guys will start the season in your rotation. That is your starting rotation. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the order. I think you could see Luzardo most likely jump Ranger, and maybe even Sanchez, depending on how he looks in spring training. But that is your rotation. And for me right now, that is probably the best part of this team. I don't think there's many arguments there right now. If you believe there's any group of this Phillies team that is better than the starting rotation right now, let me know. And I want to know reasoning because I would be shocked. As far as the infield, catchers: JT Realmuto, Garrett Stubbs. First base, Bryce Harper. They have Bohm listed there. But really, as we know, the infielders: JT, Stubbs, Harper, Bohm, Stott, Sosa, Trey. Those, I would say, are your locks. You then have the guys like Clemens, like Weston Wilson, who could play an infield spot if needed. But those are really your infielders right now. And then as far as your outfielders, I think this is where things probably are a little bit dicey for me. I know I've talked about how I would still love one more outfield bat, and if they were to continue to go over this third surcharge, I think this is where I would want the money to be. Max Kepler, Brandon Marsh, Johan Rojas, and Nick Castellanos. Those are really your 4 outfielders. Weston Wilson is kind of your bench utility if he does make the roster out of camp. And then for your DH, we obviously know is Kyle Schwarber. So that is really where we stand right now. It's been kind of a dead period. I know it's been a bit repetitive on here, but we want to continue to talk to you guys every day. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know how you're feeling about the offseason, and I want to continue to inform you guys as best as I can and as best as Sean Bernard can for himself. So this is where the Phillies stand. This is kind of where their projected payroll's at. This is where the money lies, and this is where the roster is right now. So looking at this roster on paper, how do you feel? Can this team win a World Series? Once again, I do just want to give a big shout out. Let me guys know if you like the new background. A lot of time spent on this over the last few days. Ignore these wires for right now, please. Those will be hidden hopefully by tomorrow. But yeah, this is the new background. I hope you guys like it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, this has been a new episode of Phillies Digest. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. We are humming right now on the channel. This is one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in the sports world right now, and we want you guys to be a part of it. So once again, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do it, and I will see you next time right here on Phillies Digest.